Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I did my last dollar store carving video. This one is the Dollar Tree edition. If you're just joining me, my name is Jo and I'm a stamp carver. I've got a video channel full of videos for stamp carving, so feel free to subscribe and you can see the other things I do, including the carve alongs. So I have free designs and carving follow-throughs that you can see on my channel. So the Dollar Tree. I popped down to the States from time to time, and I had a lot of comments on my last video about how the Dollarama doesn't have quote dollar items, but ignoring the par difference between the Canadian and American dollar, I did want to see what Dollar Tree had in store, and you'll see what I got here. So like the last video, I wanted to make sure that I could grab everything I needed to carve a stamp as if I didn't have any of my material. So please ignore the cutting mat underneath this carving table here, because what I did was, just like the last video, I purchased a carving board. So you can actually use these cutting boards for carving. You basically need a firm surface to that you can actually slice on that won't, wreck your tabletop. So I got this one here. I also got some paper. You always need to have some paper to prepare your design for transferring and also for stamping after. They didn't have any ink pads, and so like last time, picked up some jumbo markers because you can actually print with those. For carving material, look at this. These big erasers are fantastic. I love these. I actually picked up some more of them, and I'll show you why later. So if you find one of these and you want to learn to do some stamp carving, they are perfect. I also got some pencil because I'm going to be doing a pencil transfer, and these types of pencils work great. Now, the crazy thing is the dollar store didn't have any sort of knives. I searched everywhere. They didn't have box cutters. They didn't have X-Acto knives. So I went next door to the Hobby Lobby and picked up what I consider sort of an equivalent to a dollar store find. So these ones are mini box cutters. They were $2.99 or $1.99 rather in US dollars, and so we're going to be carving with those today. So how much did I spend on all of this? Well, the stuff from the actual Dollar Tree only came to $5.40 with sales tax, and then again this one was another $2 on that. So really inexpensive if you want to get started carving. So how do you use these items? Well, let me just go ahead and unpackage everything and I will show you. Okay, so with the supplies I have here, as well as these, which I'm not going to unpack because they're essentially sort of the inks, all you need is to get started with carving stamps are these sort of items. So what you want to do with the paper, and I was hoping this was actually going to be blank pads. From the outside I couldn't see, but you can use this to actually draw out your design, and I'm going to actually do text today. On one of my videos someone asked me, well, why can't I just write right on the rubber itself? And you can. Go ahead, you can. Some of the rubbers though, actually it presses in and makes a line, a mark in the rubber, and then when you print it you'll have that line show up, which can be a problem. So that's why I tend to avoid it. But also, your image is reversed. You need to have it reversed onto the carving rubber to carve it, and that can be difficult for some people, particularly for text. And what I'm about to draw is actually a text item. So that's why I always put my design on some kind of paper to then transfer it on the rubber so that it's always reversed properly. So, at least with the lines here, it's really easy to see what your sizing is. So I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to make a design. Now, the one thing you need to keep in mind if you do any carving on these types of erasers is that because the edge is it's an angle like this, you want to make sure you're not carving right up to the edge, because this will bend instead of carve. So I'm actually going to carve those pieces off. So I'm going to use my cutting board. and this carving, these are box cutter style carving tools. You want to find, if you're going to use these, ones where it locks into place. This one itself, these little baby ones, have a little locking mechanism. See that gap right there? And there's another one there. That means when you extend this out, there's a piece that pops in there. And if you get it to pop in there, it makes it more secure. So when you're pressing on this side, it doesn't go in and it doesn't make you move the way you didn't expect it to. So it protects you. So this one only has 2 locking positions, and the less expensive ones only often have something like that. Others actually have a locking mechanism, so you can put it anywhere you want. This one only has the 1 spot. That's okay. We're going to use this to make the stamps anyway, but it's just something you should be aware of to protect yourself, because you always got to make sure that you're safe when you're carving stamps. So what I want to do is cut off that triangular bit. So I'm going to cut it here. Oh, guys, come on now. This carves like a dream. So I've really lucked out. This is the best type of carving eraser. I just love it. And this is such a sharp tool. So it's actually gonna let me carve really easily. I'm not working hard to put the knife into the rubber, and it you know, it glides smoothly. It's wonderful. So that's really good news. So when I get those carved off on the sides, I have a completely squared off block. A little rough on the side, but that's okay. If you're using erasers and you have design or any kind of, you know, this kind of thing on it, often you can get rid of it either by using a little bit of acetone, like nail polish remover, or you can just use the opposite side if you're going to be mounting it. So I didn't buy any acetone at the dollar store, and we're making the assumption that I don't have anything with me, so I'm just gonna leave it on that side. So for my design, I'm going to just use inside that box because that's essentially the size of rubber block that I have, and so I'm going to create a design. Okay, so no one's ever gonna blame me for being super original. But I just want to show you how when you have a good carving rubber and a good tool, you can actually carve things as detailed as like this stamp. So how do we get that onto the rubber? That's actually quite easy. Once the pencil is actually on here, it will come off quite easy on the rubber block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take one of these markers, and what you do is you line it up upside down on top of it. So I'm actually going to fold this back so I know exactly where the design is. Part of the trouble is actually knowing where the stamp or where the design is on the paper if you can't see through it. So I'm going to place that right here. And then I'm going to use the marker cap. If you use that and you just rub it like this onto the rubber, it will transfer. Now it's the kind of lead that comes in these pencils is just your basic type of lead, and it's kind of a medium hard. And if you're into drawing, you already know that there are different hardnesses of lead that you can get, and they're used for different purposes. Well, one of the ones I use almost all the time is a 4B. B stands for softness. I don't know why. And it actually makes it easier to do these types of transfers. But in fact, you don't need it. You can actually use just a regular pencil. And if you do, you can get something as detailed as that from a pencil drawing. Now, one of the problems with this type of eraser is that the corners are not squared. And as a result, this kind of curve at the side results in you lose a little bit of width. So you can see the very top of the word "that's" is sort of cut off a little bit. It's actually better that that happened now and not when I'm trying to stamp later, because you can lose part of your design if the rubber is not square and flat. So that's actually quite helpful for me because I can tell and I can adjust some of the tops of those letters to make sure that they will appear properly when they're carved. So this is not a carving video. I'm going to carve this, and if you're looking for some tutorials about how to carve, you can check out some of my other videos on this channel, but for now I'm going to get this carved and then we're going to see how this prints. Oh! Okay, so it's done. It was not as easy as I was hoping to carve. I don't know if you can see it as I was carving it in fast motion like that. One of the downsides of using one of these box cutters is actually the angle of this cutter. It's more like that angle between where the blade is and where the piece comes back there. That's more like the angle on the Olfa hobby knife. I'm sure Olfa, there's other brands, there's a number for the cutting blade on it, but it's not like what I call an X-Acto knife blade, which is the standard size 11, which this angle is much sharper. So the downside of that is that when you're trying to go around corners, it digs in. Let's see if I can show you. It digs in and then it doesn't want to turn. And so when you're trying to do turns, it's very, very tight and jagged and it's not smooth, and then that can cause problems. So it's not a problem if you're doing something that's larger or if you're just starting out. But if you're used to carving with a certain angle blade, that will be a challenge, as it was for me. So, but this material, Carved Like a Dream, I don't know if you saw on it, there was a moment where I was stabbing into the rubber. The one downside of this type of eraser is that it's not consistent in the formulation. When they pour out the rubber, or however they make these, there are patches that are harder than others, and it doesn't look any different, but you can feel it when you're carving. So I love these types of thick erasers. It's like one company, I think, that makes them or something, and I will totally buy them for anything, but it's just something to be aware of, that that's actually a problem. So I'm going to show you that it can be stamped now with these colored markers. So let's see this. I'm gonna ink this up. So there you go. Before I can clean it up, that's what she said. So, can you start carving by my materials at the dollar store? Absolutely. This material, like I said, it cost only you know, $5, a little over $5, plus the $2 for the these types of knives. So if you've never done it before, I absolutely think it's worth 10 bucks to see if you enjoy stamp carving. Obviously, there are a couple things that I would definitely change about what I just carved. First of all is my light and magnifier. It's awfully dark in here. The sun is starting to go down, and I didn't have my magnifier and the light that I normally use to carve really detailed stamps. It was very difficult for this. As well, I really would change this. was actually quite sharp. It did the job, but it's very hard to make turns in the rubber for the reasons I explained. So that I would change. I would get my my favorite type of knife handle and knives, and they're not too expensive. It's a little bit more of investment, but that's what I'd use. So I'll put links below to that kind of material, and then also a link to my blog so you can see where I get some of my other materials. But can you do it? Absolutely. So if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see other dollar store carving editions, let me know in the comments. But feel free to subscribe. I've got some more videos coming for some carving, and also my carve alongs, which are free to sign up for, and there'll be a link down below in the description. Leave me a comment. I'd love to see what you guys have carved. You can send me images on Instagram, and I'll see you soon for another video. Take care. Bye-bye.